All right, everybody, and welcome to the Todo Latino Live. Tonight, we are going to talk about none other than the Bad Bunny halftime show. That is what we're here to do. We're going to be going over numbers. We're going to be talking over our experiences, how we felt, everything that you can possibly think of. As you know, Bad Bunny, Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio, headline Super Bowl 60 halftime show. As a Puerto Rican Dominican, I got to first say, it's been a while because I've been kind of connecting with my Puerto Rican roots, being so distant from it from like, separated family perspective. So, just watching that man up there delivering probably what I consider to be the most powerful unifying performance that I've seen in the Super Bowl for quite some time. There's a lot of entertainment. There's a lot of people who are, trying to make points. And in his case, he was just really just trying to unite people from all classes and all walks of life, which is really cool. But before we get into all the numbers and all that stuff, I kind of want to get a first thought. We'll go with Yobi and then Alex and then Evie as to like what you thought and how it made you feel and so forth. So why don't you go ahead?
Well, let me tell you, I felt seen, like the word, that's the seen and heard. It was just so different. It was impactful. It was meaningful. It was historic, epic, all the words, but it was fun. Yeah, for my English speakers, but it was funny. You felt the feelings of how we party. That's what I like about the whole, there were iconic topics, definitely that, and we will talk about it throughout the show. So stay there. I like it.
Now, I had the chills the whole time I was watching the halftime show. I kid you not, I couldn't stop staring at the screen. Like I couldn't get distracted because my eyes were just up on the screen. I kept smiling. I had the chills, and I just felt proud. That's what I felt.
Yeah, as someone who's Puerto Rican, for me, it was the first time I saw representation of Puerto Rico, like that culturally specific at that level. And I watched it at a watch party full of other Ricans. And let me tell you, like, we were allowed. The second it started, when Ricky Martin popped out, everybody lost their minds. Like, it was just such a beautiful cultural representation of the island, of its people, of the culture. Like you said, it was inclusive because it wasn't just about Puerto Rico, because it really was about everyone in the Americas, plural. And that was a really beautiful statement.
I have a question because we posted it up. We were trying to figure out who was going to be playing alongside Benito, like during the halftime show. I can honestly say, I mean, we saw people there at La Casita, like, Cardi B was there. We
Yeah.
saw Jessica Alba, but none of the people that I predicted were there because I had automatically assumed Becky G because she was all over the place. I had, my second, I think, on a thing was probably like Carol G or even Cardi B. I think were my top three picks there. But no, I think he surprised us like with Lady Gaga, and I think Ricky Martin was kind of hinted, but I didn't choose him. But did any of
I
you
did.
have those two as like your choice of who he was going to bring out as a special guest?
My picks were Cardi B and Ricky Martin. I we have a post
So
about it.
you got Ricky.
Yeah, I was
So
screaming.
she
I was
shared it.
screaming when I was like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, if I would have put a bet, man, I would have made some money.
Oh, for sure. I honestly thought it was gonna be Cardi B, J Balvin, and Mark Anthony, but I was totally wrong.
J Balvin. That's a good guess. That's a
Yeah.
good guess. I wouldn't have. Yeah. What about you, Evie?
I thought it was going to be Cardi. And like she was there, and like I see that, so she was technically a part of it.
True.
But
True.
really, like, I am not surprised that the choice was Gaga, given the fact that he is a very big Lady Gaga fan. She is his idol. He has been like rocking Lady Gaga merch for like a decade now. Has always like
Wow.
looked up to her. Like when he hosted SNL, she was the one that introed him as a musical act. Like it is clearly that she is an artist that he holds up on like a pedestal and views a certain way, and that he invited her to perform in his Super Bowl, and she has been so like kind, and everything she said post Super Bowl was like, thank you so much for including me. Like I'm so proud to have been a part of this. Like I wouldn't have been anywhere else in the world. Like to me, I think it was a very personal choice for him. And that's a really cool moment to see where he can perform on the biggest stage in the world with an artist that he admires. And they're equals now. And that's something that's really cool and that you get to see playing out in real time.
I think another person that was like super just hyped and is still talking about it today was Jessica Alba.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She must have felt the electricity we felt like 80 times fold, because she has not stopped talking about it. She's out there defending it. She's just full on, and
lived it.
it's just amazing to
She
see
did.
that the impact that it had. I can only imagine what it was like down there, within the whole hype, because it almost felt like they were making a music video in a sense, for it. Because if you were in the stands, it was probably really hard for them to kind of see like a lot of which is probably why they asked people to be, a certain height for the bushes, because you
Oh my
couldn't,
God.
you couldn't overtake that. And it was funny because me and the kids are watching and I call kids, me and my my kids are all
Grown adult kids.
All those groans.
We're
Grown
sitting
out.
there-
All grown.
we're sitting there watching it, and the one thing we notice is like, wait, the bushes are moving. Like either there is a strong wind there, or there are people in these bushes. And it was cool because like they were literally moving the stage around with those people, and that's how they did it, which would be easier, obviously, than trying to change out, all the sceneries as he kept moving into different, spots on there. I do want to, obviously it's a football game, so we had a football game that took place at the Benito concert, but I
Right.
want to turn around and just, part of it is give a shout out to the Latino players who were actually there. So for the New England Patriots, we have Andres Borregales, who's Venezuelan. I've been following all year, just because there weren't really many good kickers out there, and this brother stepped up and took the Patriots there. He basically field goaled them through the playoffs. Christian Gonzalez, who's Colombian, and I got to tell you, Christian dominated the game from a game's perspective. That brother had 2 touchdown saving deflections, and I think for me, like, it was just really cool watching them play on the field, and just like Jalen Hawkins, who played safety. He's from Panama, so there you go, Joey. You got one for
Yeah, to the
And
point that
then-
actually his last name is very close to home. Yeah. I was like, I even asked my dad. I was like, "Are we really related?" Because it's an extension of it. But that's
But
what they
he
say
knows-
about Panamanians. They're like, we know each other. I'm like, well, we only 4 million in the
Well, he's-
country itself, in the mainland. But
he's they're starting to kind of get into that football. There's not a lot of Panamanians playing football, so it's like it was
no,
really
he's
cool to
representing
that
yes.
representation there. And then you go into Julian Love, who's Mexican and Cuban, and he's spoken about it quite at length. And then Elijah Arroyo, which is a tight end that you've seen holding up the Mexican flag at the end. And he's a rookie, so he's got a lot way to go. But shout out to all of those players, because I love watching them represent on the field, especially when the games are over and when they're doing their interviews. They're always carrying around their flags, always representing their home country. So, but really cool. But I think what I want to do is I want to see, just more in depth what each of you got out of the Super Bowl halftime show, because there was just so much to dig in. Just even from a Puerto Rican perspective, El Apagón, and so there's just so much on there. I'll start with you, Evie.
Sure. For me, I know people were surprised. Like, people were saying like, "Oh, like they expected to be political," and it wasn't political. It was, and it was just in terms of like Puerto Rico's politics and history. And so for me to see those little nods really stuck out. So, for example, the flag that Benito was holding, that's the Puerto Rico independence flag. So if you're not familiar with the history, like Puerto Rico became a part of, well, it was transferred over from Spain to the United States in 1898 with the signing of the Treaty of Paris that ended the Spanish-American War. So the U.S. got Guam, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines. And then
Mm.
Sounds horrible when you say it that way, right? Like they're trading cards.
That's what they did. They went to war to free Puerto Rico from Spain and then take it for themselves. But in 1917, Puerto Ricans were granted citizenship. And if you know what happened in 1917, you know why they were granted citizenship, because that was World War I. They wanted them eligible for the draft. So then it became this whole thing of like, well, how do we classify Puerto Rico? Like, what do we do? They made it an unincorporated territory. And then that made it so they didn't necessarily have to have all of the rights of mainland American citizens. So Puerto Rico does not have like representation. They're members of Congress or representatives, but they're not voting members of Congress. So they have very limited rights. You can vote in a primary, but you can't vote in a presidential election unless you move to the mainland United States. So they're always second-class citizens when they were granted citizenship. And then you had in the 1930s and 40s, there was an independence movement. Puerto Rico had not been independent since the colonizers first set foot on land. So there was a rising independence movement. What happened in 1948, they banned the flag. The U.S. government they stomped out that movement and the uprising that was happening. They bombed Puerto Rico. That's why we have a bioluminescent bay, is because we were bombed. And they passed the gag law, which made it illegal to have a Puerto Rican flag. You couldn't display it outside your home. You couldn't display it inside your home. And when they reversed the gag order, when they got rid of it, and they said, okay, you can put your flag again. The flag was not the light blue one, which was associated with independence, because that flag was created to be a mirror image of Cuba's flag. That's why they're similar in colors. They're just like reversed. What they did was they changed the blue so it looked like the American flag blue. So when they said you can fly this flag, and they made it look like the American flag, it wasn't the flag that Puerto Ricans had designed for themselves with the mind of independence. And that's the flag that Bad Bunny chose to wave in his performance. And that means something. He could have used the one that the United States flies around, but no, he chose the independence flag. I think that's a very political statement. If you look at Lady Gaga's dress, that blue matches the blue of the flag. Yeah, that was an intentional choice. And when you look at that,
the same blue as the flag, so it was I think the cool thing about it is he chose to do something that was particular to the island, as opposed to trying to create more of a buzz, so to speak, from what he's been talking about in the United States. So very cool. I was hoping he was coming out with that Puerto Rican black flag. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I like that one.
That would have been a statement.
That would have been too much.
that would have lifted everybody up out of their chairs, even the Puerto Ricans. So crazy stuff. What'd you think about a lot of the symbolisms that you saw with, like, even with Ricky Martin and the thing he chose?
I think it was such an intentional choice to have Ricky be the one to perform Lo que pasó con Hawaii. Like, you're having like Puerto Rico's like one of his favorite sons singing a song about like the colonial oppression that's happening and how they're repeating what they did to Hawaii and how people are being priced out of the island and the further gentrification. I think that was something that was super powerful to see. And also, like, just the cultural symbolism too, like the jibaro, just seeing the jibaro like on a world stage was incredible. Like, that's a symbol of like our farm workers. My abuelo was a jibaro. Like, he worked in the sugarcane fields, and to see that represented on like a national stage like that was incredible.
All right. First of all, the hat, because I got into an argument with somebody on I've been getting into a lot of arguments after this show. So I'm actually, the way I started this whole company was because I was really loud and vocal on social media, and I stopped doing that just because, I don't want a heart attack. But this halftime show really started doing that. And one of the things that I was listening to is people were really going at it about his hat, the jibaro hat. And I'm like, and somebody actually said, we don't even use that hat today. And I'm like, where have you been? And he's in Puerto Rico. And I'm like, I visited there for 2 weeks. And in the 2 weeks I was there, I saw that hat everywhere. Like, it's everywhere. It's even being used by some of the servers and some of the people who are, restaurant owners and stuff like. I don't know. I'm living in an alternative reality with everything that I'm seeing on there.
My father's from Ponce. What are you talking about? My father came from Ponce. Ponce is still in Puerto Rico, last I checked.
Yep. I was shocked, but I'm glad that you kind of gave that history to it because a lot of people don't understand. Like, we have certain flags that we use, and yeah, America has their well, they have two flags. One they can't show no more, but one, but the other one is just the general flag, and it's the one that I fought for when I was in the military and so forth. But you're not going to take my roots away from me on that aspect of it. So yeah, so it was beautiful to see, and I actually have. I think I have. Let me see if I have the clip from that because this was probably to me one of the most. I'm getting choked up just even saying it. Probably one of the most representate when they say representation matters. The amount of countries that were uplifted up on that field that day was just amazing. Let me see if I can show this to you.
Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, Bolivia, Perú, Ecuador, Brasil, Colombia, Venezuela, Guyana, Panamá, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, México, Cuba, República Dominicana, Jamaica, Haití, las Antillas, United States, Canadá, a my motherland, mi patria, Puerto Rico.
That's crazy. Like, I don't even know how you don't feel a sense of pride seeing that on the field.
my
And I
God.
remember there are reels of people who have never had their country mentioned on stage that were going nuts. And they had no clue. Had no clue that this was going to happen. And so I give props to Bad Bunny because, a lot of people were trying to say that he was going to be divisive and just be raunchy and all kinds. And the man literally came out and put on probably one of the most unifying fronts ever on there. And, he mentioned the United States. He mentioned, and so for me, I just feel like it was such a special moment. I'm curious for you, Yobi, like what did you see when you watched that Super Bowl halftime show?
Well, I literally tune in like a couple of minutes before, but I want to highlight because I do have some names to drop. But I was like pretty much like everybody, tune in to the halftime.
You didn't watch the game?
I watched the game a little bit, but not even the commercial.
Right. That was a boring ass game until that.
That's what I heard. That's what I heard.
I agree.
But then again, the Super Bowl commercials was, it is a thing too. But actually,
they were funny. Some of them were really funny.
Well, we'll come back to that one. We'll come back to that one. First and foremost, I want to highlight Coco Jones because not only she did the appearance in the Super Bowl, but she did an homage to Whitney Houston in her attire, the appearance that she was wearing, the colors. It was very similar to 1991 Super Bowl performance looks from Whitney Houston. That is Coco Jones. And the other thing really important that we were really enjoying was the choreography. 330 performers, all the dancers. That was led by no other than Charm LaDonna, which is a Black choreographer and creative director. She has been around. She was part of the Kendrick Lamar too, and Bad Bunny, and also The Weeknd and Beyonce. So when you are, remember those moves and all those exciting things that happened in the Super Bowl, that's thanks to her. And obviously the highlight, like you mentioned earlier, was the Sugar Cane crew, the stock. The 380 people were selected for that. And obviously they were paid and they were assigned for 80 hours. And that's been going viral. Everybody giving their testimony, speaking about it afterwards, what they had to do. And people came from Philadelphia, from everywhere. They were excited. They were happy. And it's like, just imagine, can somebody tell you, oh my God, you're going to be a prop. And it's like, what kind of prop you're going to be? What it become? And it's like
every actor's dream. You're going to be a tree.
And I know, right? And you're going to get paid for it too. And it's like, Mom, I think they say they have a meme. They say, Mom, voy a estar en el Super Bowl. Watch me. Dice, ¿qué vas a hacer? Voy a hacer la grama.
If you're a parent, you're like, bueno,
mijo. Well, yeah. So imagine, man. And then definitely the producer, his name is Harriet Cuthbert, or her. There, definitely she's been part of it. And I want to say the designers also, Bruce and Shelley Rogers, and Julio recorded 380 performers to dress as grass. And the director, Hamish Hamilton. All the shout outs.
She
Oh,
went
the
through the
great
whole
producer.
list. We're
Yes.
gonna see the award handout and then
Yes.
the credits start rolling. with
Because the thing
music.
is that I was like really curious about it. I'm like, okay, who really came up with this? And then even the producers like, because the thing is that there's a guideline in the Super Bowl that they only can have 50 carts or 25, give and take, with everything that they have to put in on the field and get it out. So that's the point that when they decided about the plans, they could not bring more than that. That's the deadline that the NFL guidelines, and they had to figure out, okay, how we can bring them in and how we can take them out. So that's how the sugarcane stock people came around for that purpose, because that's the only way that they could move it around in that limited space of time.
I figured that's why they needed so many people to do that, because you wouldn't be able to have the manpower in the middle of the show to be able to move all that stuff. It's
No,
just
because
easier, and then you could see there's footage of like the assistant producers that were or on the field or the ADs that were, you know, kind of guiding all the actors and all the people who were. First of all, I wasn't invited to that because probably they didn't have a bush big enough for me. But like, I'm just like, I would have loved to have been that. All the amount of dancing I'm doing with that bush, like on the field.
You had to stay still. You had to stay still.
Yeah, they
You
could
know
not
how hard it
dance.
is to say
No,
something
no,
with
no,
that
no,
much?
I was like right on the
You would've
spot.
seen- if they had us, all the bushes would have been like this.
Yeah, like,
They would've been the
Dancing to
same.
the music.
Alex, what about you?
Oh my God. Now, before we talk about my experience, I want to acknowledge something though. So obviously, hours before the halftime performance, Bad Bunny's halftime performance, I posted a predicted set list for the halftime show on Instagram, and you know I'm not mad at my predictions. So the songs that I had on the list that he did perform, they were Titi me preguntó, Zafaera, Voy a llevarte pa' PR, EO, Monaco, Vale Inolvidable, Nueva York, El Apagón, Café con Ron, y Debe Tirar Más Fotos. Now that was 10 out of 16 songs that I had predicted and had posted on Instagram, and I'm not mad at my predictions. So let's acknowledge that.
I mean, 10 of 16, you wouldn't have cashed on Prize Picks, but you would have definitely. I'm just kidding.
I imagine if I would have bet it though, I would have cashed out. At least, I mean, that's what I think. But another thing that I saw on social media that a lot of people were getting wrong, and I'm just like, why are people so quick to spread fake news? Like, why don't they do their research? And especially like on Instagram and TikTok, people were saying that the little boy that received the Grammy was Leon Ramos, a 5-year-old who was detained by ICE in Minnesota. Well, that was not him, because people were so quick to spread that all over the news or all over social media.
It went like wildfire.
Exactly, right? But it was not Leon Ramos. It was Lincoln Fox, who was also a 5-year-old child. He's a child actor. Lincoln portrayed a young version of Bad Bunny during the performance, representing a symbolic moment of the future, handing the past a Grammy. Now, the gesture was also intended to represent dreams come true. So I don't know if you guys heard Benito tell the little boy, crees siempre en ti. Now, for those of you who don't speak Spanish, it means always believe in yourself. And I just thought that was amazing and a beautiful moment. So, I mean, how did you guys feel when you guys saw that?
I was on social media when it happened, so I know what you're talking about, because I literally spent. It was what is it, Crescenstein or whatever? I can't remember. He's on X. That's where it started. And because he has like over 2 million followers, it just spread. Ed Crescenstein, I can't remember. I don't know. There was 2 brothers, and they both got like arrested for stupid stuff. I saw that, and it was like, even the people in the room, there was 2 moments. One was that, and then the other one, which brought humor, which we posted about, was the kid sleeping on the chair, which was like part of the party. You know, because a lot of people don't realize a whole wedding was taking place at the exact same time that the Super Bowl halftime show was taking. Like, the wedding was literally the show. It was insane, and every single pass of it. But that had to be probably one of the strongest moments, Alex, of the whole thing.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
It's him basically giving his younger self like the Grammy, almost, and that was his whole message throughout the entire thing. By the way, was you need to believe in yourself.
Yes,
and a lot of it is because, you know, people don't realize this man was bagging groceries 10 years ago. Okay,
that's crazy.
I'm putting his music in SoundCloud. Yeah, but yeah,
and
beats.
You know my thoughts about his music and what I like, what the ones I listen to, the ones I don't. I was very fond of his new album as opposed to not some of his older ones, just because I wasn't like a huge Bad Bunny fan back then. But the new one, which had a lot of salsa, and so that really just caught my attention and really kind of rode me in. And so, yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Alex. That moment was just it's good staging. Like if you're looking for a moment to grab onto that will give you a boost of, hey, I can do this too, that was it. Like I don't know how else to say it besides that. Like if you don't see the ability that you have inside of you from seeing that moment, I don't know what else to tell you. Because it was, and I to be honest, if I was that child actor, he's in heaven right now. I don't know if he got to keep the Grammy. But that would be cool as hell too.
I think it was a replica, like a fake one.
Yes,
yes, heavy because
for
Grammys
sure
are heavy, you know. So when the kid was holding them, like, oh, it's light, it's a fake one, it's a replica, you know. Obviously, but another thing that I felt like very nostalgic watching and just also listening while the performance was going on was and that stood out to me was the old school reggaeton. Now, when he fell through the ceiling and he came out kicking the door out, he started playing Tego Calderon, Daddy Yankee, and Don Omar, like a little snippet. I really thought one of them was gonna come out and perform, right? But Bad Bunny was just literally teasing us, and I was just like, "Why are you doing this? Why?"
Especially when Gasolina came up.
I know, right? I was like,
there. I think everybody on the planet was sitting there going, wait, is he coming up? He was very adamant he wasn't going to be a part of this halftime show.
Yeah,
I literally stood up from the couch.
But that would have been like record breaking. Like I don't know how many people, if that would have came out and not a lot of people were paying attention to that moment, the internet afterwards, when they see that Daddy Yankee was coming out, like would have just went crazy. You know what I mean? So yeah, I agree with you. And it was a teaser because when I heard Gasolina, I could have sworn we were going to see it. As a matter of fact, like 2 minutes later, I was like, man, what you do that for, man?
It was a nice way to like pay homage to the artist.
Yeah,
no, it's great.
Yeah,
it was.
I think it's absolutely amazing, you know, and I don't know. It really hit home with a lot of the stuff that was kind of presented there, the Mercado, you know, from New York and stuff like that. You see the vendors here and that one from here in LA. It was just so much that was being introduced that were like subtle, you know, kind of points of representation that a lot of people just don't add into that. It wasn't just about the music. It was about the community, which was something that was really kind of crazy. You got another one?
And also the little boy sleeping on the chair. I was
that
that
was
kid.
the one.
I was that kid at every other family party.
We were all that kid.
We were all that kid.
Also, cool ass shirt. I know that we were talking about it all.
Yes.
That was a cool. Where did you get that?
Oh, little quick shout out. This is from my sister-in-law's online shop. She's on social media at No Chingas Creation. So she made me this shirt and I wore it on Sunday. I had to wear it. I had to.
She got a website?
No, she's on Instagram at No Chingas
She's on Instagram?
Creations.
All right, man, follow her. What's her Instagram again?
At No Chingas Creations.
All right, we'll add it to the description on here so you guys can follow. On there.
She's
all right.
Here in LA.
Anybody else have any other feedback before I go into the numbers?
Actually, I have two fun facts. Two fun facts.
Fun
facts. Yo, go ahead.
You're not me. I'm over here. I'm a numbers guy. I'm like salivating.
Okay, Mr. Number. We're coming with the numbers. Hold on. But I want to ask you guys, the cake, the wedding cake. I know that came out in the video. What is the name of I guess the pastry or, you know, the company that
like the tower? Oh,
the cake.
Yeah. I think they had mentioned it before because it's very iconic in the New York, Puerto Rican culture.
Valencia?
Yes.
Let me tell you, there was not a single birthday in my family as a child that did not include a Valencia.
Thank you for that info. Yes.
And the what is it called? The topping is always smooth. Like it's different than like what you
the frosting,
an American cake. They use a lot of fondant here and all kinds of stuff. That's not what we do. We don't do a lot of fondant. So
Okay,
good
yeah.
now to your fun facts because we cut Alex off.
No,
Go,
no, you're
Alex.
good.
Go, Alex. Go.
All right. So, fun fact number 1. I almost signed up to be part of Bad Bunny's halftime show, but the only thing that stopped me
way.
was that if you were chosen, then you were gonna have to go to Santa Clara for 3 weekends in a row for rehearsal. And the only thing that stopped me was obviously myself, but it was the flights. They were expensive, and I was not about to drive to Santa Clara, which is like 7-8 hours with traffic. So I was just like, I meet all the requirements, you know. So I mean, me being Delulu, I was like, I'm gonna get chosen if I apply, you know. But I was like, damn, if I would have just applied, I would have just had the experience. But that's the only thing that stopped me. So that's fun fact number 1.
We could have been seeing you
could've
on,
been
In the
grandma.
bushes, in la grama.
I would have been right now in this podcast
we
with my
probably would have
bushes.
noticed your ass. You being one of those like, we were
No,
like,
I would have been like this. That's
wait,
it.
Patrick had face.
Dressed in green.
They would have been there like, oh, Jessica Alba.
Knowing myself, I know I would have done that. But fun fact number 2, I have watched Bad Bunny's halftime performance 7 times, and it just came out on Sunday. So I've been watching it like almost nada. I'm just like, you know what? Let me watch it again. So I'll watch it. But
So we had somebody
that's
who asked. We had somebody who asked in the comments, "What did you think about the All American halftime show? What was going on at the same time?" I feel like it was a huge flop. So I'm gonna go into the numbers on this, and I'm gonna tap a little bit on that, and then I'm gonna kind of, later on we'll hit into some of the reactions that took place after the thing, because that's kind of what I've been focusing on since then, just because it energized me so much that went in there. But let me see if I can find my numbers, because you know me, I got the numbers.
Ooh. No.
I got the numbers. So originally what was thought of is that he had hit the 134 million mark, surpassing Kendrick Lamar's. It actually was 128.2 million US viewers. It peaked at 137 because we had Telemundo and the Peacock app that kind of jumped in there. So like I said, slightly higher than normal halftime shows, but just under Kendrick Lamar. So he's probably going to be like probably 3rd or 4th of all time. But his difference, which is what a lot of people were not understanding, is his ability to hit the social media market. He's a global artist. You're not going to see a lot of US numbers coming from him. You're going to see a lot of global numbers coming from him. Those numbers don't come out till next week. This is the first time that they're counting those global numbers. And so when it comes to social media, just like what happened on our accounts, over 4 billion global social media views within the first 24 hours, 137% increase over the previous years. So that's including like TikTok, Instagram, everything that we posted up on social media, that gets counted into. And then on YouTube, it was posted after the Turning Point USA, and there was like a lot of talk about, Turning Point USA took a lot of first of all, it was 5 million people that tuned in to the Turning Point USA, what I call the all white American halftime show, because there was now one person of color that actually was a part of it. Kid Rock was the headliner. Apparently he's been lip singing through the thing. It was pre-recorded and then showed up there. They couldn't even get the rights to be able to post it on X, so they weren't able to do it on there. But it's sitting at right now at 21 million. Benito's halftime show was posted like 2 hours after that, and it's sitting at 71 million and counting. Okay, so it doesn't matter how anybody wants to, share it or flop the numbers or call it a flop. The only thing that was a flop was that somebody was really trying to get in their fields to the point where they had to create a whole ass show for themselves because they didn't feel it. The thing that bothers me the most about what's taking place is that once these global numbers come out, all of this discussion is going to be mute anyways, because he's going to be the most watched global halftime show of all time until somebody else comes in here. And for people who don't understand what I'm talking about, is I wrote an article and I posted it up. The NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, all of these organizations have the U.S. market. They're not worried about the U.S. market anymore. Advertisers are already saturating that U.S. market. This is why you're seeing games in Mexico and Canada, and well, not Canada, but like overseas in Europe, in Germany, and they're expanding to a global reach. You're not going to get that from US numbers. That's just the thing. The other thing is you can create all the alternative halftime shows in the world. You're still not going to have that global reach that the NFL is going to have. So I don't have a problem that they created, their little sanctuary. They're starting to sound like people that they were complaining about back in 2017. But the thing about it is at least be honest with what you're doing. You got people out there who were posting pics of Benito in a dress, burning a U.S. flag, an AI-generated image. You have people who were out there posting Benito lyrics that wasn't even songs that he sang during the halftime show. And what it did is it spread out all this false information to all of these people, and they ate it up. They ate it up until this moment. I get alerts of people who are responding back to me proving stuff that they didn't like wrong, and not just white, Latinos too, which is insane. And so just please, for those of you who are on social media, like being saturated by all this stuff, half of the people who are engaging with you are bots, people who created accounts, fake accounts with like these flags and all this stuff to make it seem like they're American. And it's literally people sitting in the room just like, you remember the monkeys in the Superman movie? Like that. That's what you're debating against. They're not real human beings. They're instigators, and they're there to spread out misinformation. For government officials to now spread out misinformation, that's the part that really gets me. And that's the part that really kind of, tears me up, because I'm going to show you a clip that is literally turned around and made me realize, you know what? I haven't been vocal from a political standpoint just because I've been afraid to kind of express my voice like I used to 5 years ago. Listen to this shit and tell me it doesn't make you sick.
The whole show in Spanish is a middle finger to the rest of America. Who gives a damn that we have 40 million Spanish speakers in the United States? We have 310 million who don't speak a lick of Spanish. This is supposed to be a unifying event for the country, not for the Latinos, not for one small group, but for the country. We don't need a black national anthem. We don't need a Spanish-speaking, non-English performing.
That's what's happening now. I'm not sure if you understand what she's saying, but I'm gonna explain it to you. They don't want to lose what they consider to be America's pastime culture, and they feel that people of color are starting to invade that culture and take that away from them. That's why Turning Point USA's was all white. If you go on social media and you look at all the people who are commentating, all of these people are claiming this super white narrative. Oh, it should be somebody who speaks. There are congressmen who are now posting themselves because they made a mistake in like ballrooms listening to a band that's there that's a Latino band playing, and they're singing in Spanish, and I'm like, bro, if you couldn't understand what Bad Bunny and you didn't want Spanish being played at the halftime show, what are you doing listening to this band? They're not singing in English. So we can see what the hypocrisy was all about. Jake Paul too. I don't have clips of what he was saying, but basically calling Benito fake American to the point where Mena Serrano had to tear his ass, and his own brother had to tear his ass. And then the next day he's like, oh, I don't know what happened to my ex account. I love Bad Bunny. Look, you can have whatever you want from a political standpoint. You can do whatever you want to do from a political standpoint. But I'm going to tell you right now, better get used to it, because as the NFL turns around and becomes global, you might see the K-pop demon hunters up there doing that. And they might just sing in Korean.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, or you may have, a Mexican mariachi band that turns around and headlines, and they might sing in all Spanish. Or you may have, Afrobeat band or something, or you know what I mean? Like the America is not, or the United States is not a melting pot of just white people. And you're going to have to get used to that. It's something that You know, I've seen the amount of vitriol I've seen to the point where Nick Fuentes is turning against them. You know, you've lost the argument when Nick Fuentes is turned against you. And if you don't know who Nick Fuentes is, he's literally a white nationalist who's Latino. Like, I don't know how to explain it. He's, you know, he was a Trump went to him for dinner and all kinds of stuff. When Nick Fuentes is upset at the fact that you guys are literally having to create your own show to do that, you got an LGBTQ member, I can't remember his name, who's a Puerto Rican. He's a very big Trump supporter. He was pissed off because Megyn Kelly was comparing us to the Muslim takeover of UK and so forth.
No,
Not
I saw that.
understanding that, look, I'm Puerto Rican and Dominican. I was born here. I was born in Paterson, New Jersey. And I've served my country. You don't get to fucking tell me that I don't belong in spaces or that I can't speak the language of my countries. You know, when you yourself were a keyboard warrior sitting on the couch all your entire life, and I was sitting there, you know, on military grounds, you know, serving the country that gave me the opportunity while honoring the ancestors who gave me the opportunity to be here. So, you know, just food for thought. I don't know if you guys have anything that you want to add to that, but yeah, it's
Go
we're
ahead.
gonna be extremely hot come midterms, and I can guarantee you, you know, there's quite a wave that's going to be taking place that I will be a part of to make sure that what's taking place on our streets right now and what's taking place, you know, on social media right now gets put in check. Yobi, I'll let you have the last word before I turn around and start kicking things.
Okay, I only have to say the following. If you ever danced to the Macarena or Gundam style, you didn't understand a word about it. And everybody was just jumping on the bus on that one. That's what I want to say. Macarena. Yeah, and Gundam
Yeah,
style.
people-
Everybody like, hey, sexy lady. Like, oh.
Yeah. Just want to say real quick in regards to that pendeja that honestly, when she's trying to say, like, oh, speaking Spanish, one of the first languages spoken on the shores of this country, just not there's indigenous languages, and then who were the first colonizers to come over here? It's the Spanish.
Yep.
Spanish is literally one of the first languages after this country was colonized, spoken here was Spanish. So to say that, oh, we don't speak Spanish here means you didn't pay attention in U.S. history class. You didn't learn about the colonies.
It's not in their books.
Florida, California, New Mexico, Arizona, all of that. The Spaniards were here. So yeah, girl, we have spoken Spanish in this country for literally hundreds of years. Read a book.
Oh, I do have one last thing to say because I've been seeing this narrative everywhere, and I know Alex is like, dude, shut up.
No, hold on. I want to say my part too. Everybody
Oh,
else
you want to
here,
say
but not me.
dale? I'm gonna say mine last. You say you dale. Give yours.
I just find it funny because it's like you guys got your halftime show. You guys kept bitching. Sorry for cussing, but you guys kept bitching. But you guys got your halftime show, which fucking flopped. Not just that, but the same people that wanted their own halftime show are the same people that wanted their own water fountains. And let me just say that. All right.
You took it deeper.
Hey, I'm just speaking facts. So
Hey. Ain't no thing but a chicken wing on a string at Burger King with a side order of onion rings.
But yeah, that's all I had to say.
And they got it.
Hey, look, they can do it next year. Hold on, let's say so. They're laughing. So they can do this. They can do this next year. All they want. Nobody's going to stop them. Nobody's going to care. But you don't even know who the halftime show artist is going to be next year. My take, to be honest, I'd love to see Imagine Dragons, just because I'm a huge Imagine Dragons fan, because I'm not, crazy about whether it's English or Spanish. I would love to see that. I highly doubted they're going to bring Sabrina Carpenter because, according to them, they were worried about lyrics and sexual acts. And that's Sabrina's whole thing.
That's what I read.
Taylor Swift would be the best one.
The
Taylor Swift turned them down. Taylor Swift turned them down. So it's not like they get to pick and choose. Plus, they don't have anybody who's really. That's what I was saying, Alex. The next year is going to be the K-pop, or we'll bring BTS or something like that to kind of headline.
Yeah, Asian Americans. Why not?
I want to kind of really emphasize. something from a political aspect that I've been seeing on there, which is for whatever reason,
Even in the comments, they say Korean. Yeah.
Yeah. For whatever reason, people have gotten into this notion because Trump is the president that you can't criticize your government and you can't criticize the president. First of all, it's in the Constitution for you to do that. That's why we live in the United States of America. That's a God-given right here. You get to criticize the administration all you want because they did it for 4 years with Biden. They did it for all these years. You get to turn around and go in and say, I don't approve of this. I don't approve of that. And don't let anybody change that for you. Don't let anybody tell you that that's un-American. That's the most American thing that you can do is to criticize your administration and your government. You can't do it anywhere else without dealing with some type of repercussions, but you can do that here. So, I leave you with that point because as a veteran, as somebody who's an independent voter, who's gone on both sides of the aisle, depending on the issue that I address, nobody's going to tell me that I can't turn around and say this administration sucks and the way that they're handling things suck. And you can put me on record for that. You can put me on record for the midterms for that. It's very aggravating to see these people on the streets doing, making it seem, and on social media making it seem that because you articulate your dislike for what's taking place on the streets and on TV, that for whatever reason you're not allowed to do that, or it makes you less American. I'm more American than some of the Americans that were born here that are white, because I did something that they didn't do, which is serve my country. You know what I mean? So I leave you with that. Everybody, thank you for joining us in this live stream. Please follow our YouTube channel, follow all of our social medias at Todo Wafi. We're going to be doing these every single Wednesday at 5 p.m., all different topics. I promise you we won't get all bitchy and political every single time. But
no promises.
He brought.
I mean,
I
feel that we need to gain that voice again, which is something that we had like early on. And so we'll be doing a lot of it. But thank you once again. I hope everybody had an amazing time at the halftime show. I hope everybody turned around and felt empowered after that. And just like Benito says, believe in yourself, be everything that you can turn around and do. Take every opportunity that you can. If somebody doesn't want to give you a chair to the table, make your own table. And with that said, we are out.